directors of Federal Bank, Dr. Virendra Mishra, Director, National Institute of Social Defense, Mr. S. Bjorn Hornberry, President, World Federation Against Drugs, Mr. Sergei Kapinos, Representative, UNODC, Regional Office of South Asia, Ms. Shalini George, Catalyst of Fourth Way Foundation, and finally, C.C. Joseph, Director, Fourth Way Foundation. As I stand before here this morning, I feel immensely grateful. Grateful for all you wonderful people who have taken the time and effort to be with us today and for the next 3 days. Especially grateful for His Excellency, the Governor of Kerala, for making it his priority to be with us today, lending weight and credibility to this movement with his gesture. Grateful for all the dignitaries from around the world, senior officials of the central and state government, and various social sector organizations who have come together to join hands in this fight against substance abuse and crime. Grateful for the big-heartedness of Sri Shibulal, without whose unstinting support, Project VENDA could not have reached this stage. Grateful to Federal Bank, 4 Point Sheraton, and all others who provided financial and logistics support. I'm also grateful for the opportunity given to Project VENDA to organize this Asia Regional Forum against drugs under the umbrella of United Nations and World Federation Against Drugs. I'm grateful for the energy, commitment, and hours of planning and execution by the Project VENDA team that had made this event possible. For all these graces and the many that I miss listing out, I say thanks to the Almighty, to whom I earnestly pray to continue to shower His blessings and benevolence on all the 3 days of the conference and beyond. The Asia Regional Forum Against Drugs provides a platform for more than 130 delegates from across 28 countries to come together to discuss and share best practices, to build and increase the capacity for networking and advocacy in their fight against substance abuse. Specific discussions will be around the political and strategy document from the UN high-level segment of the 62nd Commission of Narcotic Drugs of March 2019. The findings of this year's drug report underscores the need for broader international cooperation to respond to the drug problem in 2 major directions. One, through addressing the integrated health requirements of the community, and 2, through criminal justice responses to drug supply and demand. As Mr. Arif, Director General of UNODC, promotes, extensive training of respondents in the treatment, aftercare, rehabilitation, and social integration of drug user community. I'm extremely gratified to note that this is precisely the approach that Project VENDA has been successfully executing for the past few years. It's common knowledge that the problem of substance abuse cuts across all strata of the society, irrespective of economic status, religion, education levels, employment status, age, or gender. However, certain sections are more vulnerable and more impacted by it due to the challenges they face in access and care to the support systems. This forum will address ways to deal with that. The conference will also explore combined impact of the absence of protective factors and the presence of potential risk factors at a particular stage in a young person's life that contribute to the vulnerability to the drug abuse. There are a huge variety of approaches being rolled out to address this problem. No one single entity, be it the government, the civil society, the local communities, religious institutions, or law enforcement, can tackle it by itself. I'm happy to see that the agenda has sessions which discuss several approaches across the world that have brought all these entities together to successfully fight this problem. Finally, we acknowledge that even when we find success, the task is not done and dusted. The enemy is constantly evolving, constantly changing their strategies, spreading farther and farther as we speak. It's our responsibility to be constantly vigilant and never cease in our efforts to keep fighting from all fronts. These efforts need to be backed by hard resources to sustain teams, to develop and test new methodologies, to support vulnerable communities in their journey to become substance-free environments by providing alternate avenues for engagement. I'm sure that the visibility and learnings over the next 3 days will also open up viable approaches for generating these resources. I close once again by extending a very warm welcome to all the participants and wishing you a very fruitful and productive 3 days of sharing and learning and networking. Thank you. I would now like to introduce our next speaker and his organization. Federal Bank Limited was incorporated on April 23, 1931 as the Travancore Federal Bank Limited in Nedumpuram. It's a major Indian commercial bank in the private sector, headquartered in Aluva, Kerala, having more than 1,000 branches and ATMs across different states in the country. The bank is a pioneer among traditional banks in the area of using technology and among the first banks in India to computerize all its branches. For Federal Bank, corporate social responsibility has been an inherited and inbuilt element of its culture from the day the bank was founded. Recognizing the importance of the work done by Fourth Way Foundation and Project VENDA in combating widespread issue of drug abuse, Federal Bank has generously agreed to be a funding partner for this conference. We are extremely thankful for your support, sir. Mr. C. Balagopal has been on the board of Federal Bank for more than, it's outdated now, it's 6 years now? 3 years. 3 years. He joined the IAS, Indian Administrative Service, in 1977 and worked in various posts in Manipur and Kerala. In 1983, he resigned from the IAS to set up a company that became one of the biggest manufacturers and exporters of blood bag systems across the world. He sold his shareholdings in the company to Terumo Corporation of Japan and since has retired. Mr. Balagopal is involved in mentoring and investing in startup firms, community development activities, and writing. He has already written 2 books, and the 3rd book is to be released. I took the data from the website. He said, I've already released the 2nd book, the 3rd book on his way. The first 2 books are On a Clear Day, You Can See India. And the 2nd book is The View from Kollam, A Day in the Life of a Sub-Collector. He has won many awards for his achievements in indigenous technology development and exports. May I now invite Mr. Balagopal to say a few words.
His Excellency, the Governor of Kerala, distinguished speakers, delegates from various countries, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to be here on this important occasion. And at the outset, on behalf of the premier commercial organization of Kerala, let me extend to you, sir, Your Excellency, a warm welcome to Kerala and wishing you great success in your tenure as Governor of the state. Narcotics abuse is a huge issue for our state and country. Unfortunately, this is insufficiently understood and appreciated by the public. This is seen in many cases as an issue of administration of criminal justice and as if it is the job of the police, but that's a serious mistake. This is a social problem, and only a systems approach will yield any kind of meaningful results. Of course, the delegates present here, you're all very familiar with this. These remarks of mine are addressed more to people like me, the citizens of this country. So it is necessary for this problem to be treated as more as a public health issue and tackled, because the impact already on the youth and hence on the working population of this country is already huge and it's growing. And this menace is right now happening under the radar as we speak. A state like Punjab, which was once one of the most affluent and forward-looking states, has been so seriously affected that it is now affecting productivity, it is affecting all parts of their society. And Kerala looks like it's going to be the next, unless something is done. All stakeholders in civil society need, therefore, to work in alignment with people like you, the delegates who have come here, who have devoted your professional abilities and lives to this important task. This should not be seen as the task of just the police or just the government. I think civil society needs to get actively involved. The federal bank, as the person who introduced us said, is Kerala's leading commercial institution. And it's only fitting that the federal bank has decided to support this important event today, and which is going to be which is going to spill over the next 2 days as well. And I would take this opportunity to offer our full support to the cause of eradicating this menace from society. Once again, I thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity to stand before you and say a few words on behalf of the Federal Bank. Thank you and good day.
Thank you, Mr. Balagopal. And once again, thanks for the support for this program. Now it's my pleasure to introduce and invite our next speaker for the morning. The National Institute of Social Defense, NIST Delhi, is the nodal training and research institute in the field of social defense. The institute is currently focusing on human resource development in the areas of drug abuse prevention, welfare of senior citizens, beggary prevention, transgender, and other social defense issues. Dr. Virendra Mishra is currently Director, National Institute of Social Defense. Before this, he has served in various capacities in different ministries and departments in the Government of India, involved in development of youth, women, and children. He has also served in different United Nations missions across the globe. May I now invite Dr. Virendra Mishra to please say a few words.
His Excellency, Honorable Governor of Kerala, dignitaries on dais, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's an immense pleasure for me to be present here on this inaugural session of a very important international forum with such an august gathering of dignitaries and experts to discuss on the very vital global social issue, the growing menace of substance use. Let me at the outset express my privilege to honor His Excellency. This is a laudable gesture extended by him by agreeing to be part of this significant forum. His presence shall send a strong message to the stakeholders and to the larger community about their responsibility to respond adequately and address the issue of substance use permeating into various social strata and population groups of the country. We all agree to the fact that the substance use has become a global problem, and it is responsible for increasing morbidity rates and millions of deaths. In recent years, India is seeing a rising trend in substance use, which has been corroborated by a national survey conducted recently by the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, Government of India. The most commonly used drugs in India is alcohol, followed by cannabis and opioids. Drug abuse, whether it is licit or illicit, not only damages socio-economic, psycho, and health status of the individual, but also has adverse consequences on family, workplace, and community at large. Article 47 of the Constitution clearly enunciates that the state shall endeavor to bring about prohibition of the consumption except for medicinal purposes of intoxicating drinks and drugs which are injurious to health. Similarly, the NDPS Act 1985 under Section 71 gives power to the government to establish centers for identification, rehabilitation, treatment, etc. of drug addicts. India has also become a signatory to the United Nations conventions where emphasis was on drug demand reduction. The Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment has the nodal responsibility of drug demand reduction through schemes for prevention of alcohol and substance use, through its wide range of services, including awareness, generation, identification, counseling, treatment and rehabilitation of dependents through community-based interventions. Presently, government supports around 450 treatment centers run by 350 NGOs spread over the country for providing preventive and treatment services. The national survey figures signify that the magnitude of the problem of substance use is high, with dependent ratio on an increasing trend. Hence, at present, there exists significant gap in services delivery in proportion to the high rate of both problem users and dependents. The Ministry of Social Justice has developed a national action plan for drug demand reduction to have a wider reach of its services to the larger population, with major focus on children and youth because of their vulnerability. Against this backdrop, NISD, National Institute of Social Defense, being a nodal technical body of the ministry, has been organizing various awareness creation and capacity building programs throughout the country. The major collaborators of NISD are the SCRT. Through SCRT, we reach the schools. SIRD, we reach the panchayati institutions through SIRD. Police, prison, colleges and universities, NGOs, and community-based organizations. To reach the hidden vulnerable population, the NISD under National Action Plan has established 2 targeted interventions, peer-led interventions and outreach and drop-in centers called the PLI and ODIC, with the aim to reduce the stigma, discrimination, and assist to have access to services for counseling, treatment, and rehabilitation. The efforts made by the government can fetch effective results only with the active support and involvement of the stakeholders. I congratulate and appreciate the hard work of the partner organizations for taking initiative to conduct this event. They have developed the most appropriate agenda and involved eminent practitioners, scholars, and government representatives. The forum, I'm sure, will be an action-driven endeavor which would provide deliverable technological solutions to this devastating social issue. I hope this forum would facilitate in identifying the challenges and help all participant organizations and countries to come up with common areas of concerns, cooperation, and support. I once again thank the organizers for giving me an opportunity to felicitate His Excellency. I compliment once again the organizers for conducting this function in a befitting manner and wish them all success. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Dr. Mishra, for those informative inputs. We will now felicitate 2 very eminent personalities on the stage, representing global organizations with whom we are partnering for this conference. Before I introduce them, it gives me great pleasure to briefly introduce my colleague at Fourth Way Foundation, Ms. Shalini George. Shalini has been an expert in the corporate communications field for over 15 years. Now she has dedicated her life to Project VENDA as one of its premier catalysts. Shalini will now honor these guests by offering them our traditional shawls, or what we call ponnadas. The first organization we have here is the World Federation Against Drugs, a multilateral community of non-government organizations and individuals. WFAD's aim is to work for a drug-free world. Mr. Esbjørn Hornberg was elected President of the World Federation Against Drugs in May 2018. Up until March 2018, he was the chairperson of the Vienna NGO Committee on Drugs and also the chair of the Civil Society Task Force on Drugs. Before working with international and development issues, he spent 17 years as a civil servant in the sectors of education, social welfare, and community administration. May I now request Ms. Shalini to present the Ponnada. The second organization we have on stage is the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, UNODC, a global leader in the fight against illicit drugs, international crime, and terrorism. It was established in 1997 through a merger between United Nations Drug Control Program and the Center for International Crime Prevention. Mr. Sergei Kapinos is a Russian career diplomat who assumed the post of the representative UNODC regional office for South Asia in November 2016. The office covers 6 South Asian countries: Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Maldives, Nepal, and Sri Lanka. As the regional representative, Mr. Kapinos' focus is to increase awareness about the risks and the impact of organized crime and corruption on the rule of law and the security of the people in the region, and to advocate for comprehensive implementation of the United Nations Convention to counteract these threats. In a career spanning over 39 years, Mr. Kapinos has held various positions in the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. May I now request Ms. Shalini to present the Ponnada. It's now my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, who actually does not need much of an introduction to most of us here. Shri S.D. Sibulal is a co-founder and member of the board of Axela Ventures, India's #1 startup accelerator, supporting more than 120 startups in India. Along with Mr. Narayan Murthy and 5 others, Mr. Sibulal co-founded Infosys in 1981. He last served at Infosys as its Chief Executive Officer and Managing Director between 2011 and 2014. Mr. Sibulal is also a member of the World Economic Forum's Agenda Council on Emerging Multinationals and co-chair of the CII's National Committee on IT, ITES, and e-commerce. He is also a chairman of the Board of Governors of the Information and Communication Technology Academy in Kerala, and a member of a Board of Trustees of Boston University. Project VENDA owes its journey to its current state almost entirely to Mr. Sibulal, who had agreed to fund the program with absolute conviction for a minimum period of 5 years when Diana presented the proposal to him. We are grateful for your support, sir. May I now invite Mr. Sibulal to present the presidential address. Please put your hands together to Mr. Sibulal.
Good morning, everyone. Honorable Governor of Kerala, His Excellency Arif Muhammed Khan, esteemed guests from all over the world, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Now, I got all the credit for VENDA, and really I had nothing to do with it. As usual, Diana actually met my wife Kumari in the Bangalore airport once, and instantly, I think within a matter of 10 seconds, convinced her that this is an extremely important initiative to take. And of course, Kumari, my wife, she promised her support. So all the credit goes to her. Unfortunately, she was not able to be here. So I am here. I feel privileged to be making this presidential address at this Asian Region Forum for Drugs, which brings together socially conscious people from 48 countries to discuss the strategies of battling substance abuse. Now, I belong to Kerala. I come from Alappi, which is about 60 kilometers from here. I grew up here. I went to college. And unfortunately, even those days, substance abuse was a reality. Now, 50 years later, looking back, I have very close friends from this part of the world, and I have remained their friend, and they have remained my friend over the last 60 years. I have lost 2 of them to alcoholism. In fact, one of them just went to rehab. I think it was about 8 months back. I had to forcefully send him to rehab. 2 of them luckily got out of it. 2 of them actually stopped and got out of it. So in many ways, I have seen the sufferings which families go through when one of the members is either an alcoholic or addicted to drugs. Now, today, the scale and the range of substance abuse has risen multifold with different kinds of substance involved. Narcotics and substance abuse prevalence rates among teens and youth adults is a matter of serious concern. As I said, when we were in college, there was a strong social and family support system that helped prevent these kinds of things. There were joint family systems. The neighbors and relatives kept an eye on the children. So in my case, my neighbors constantly updated my father where I was and what I was doing. Today, neighbors turn their eyes not wanting to interfere with other people's business. Support systems are in decline with nuclear families. Many children lack the emotional support which is required to go away to not start some of these habits. Adding to this, the pressure of excellence in academics and finding and choosing a career option is putting enormous pressure on our children in today's world. Many of the children, just like my friends, start with experimenting out of curiosity, and before they know, it is too late for them. This conference assumes increased significance in the context of approximately 75% of the Indian households have at least one substance user, usually a parent and mostly the father. In Kerala, previous excise commissioner made a troubling observation in April 2018 that 70% of the school children in Kerala are vulnerable to substance abuse. Now, I have seen Diana over the years, over the last, I think, 3 years now, doing this wonderful work. Diana and her team at the Fourth Wave Foundation have been doing stellar work in this region. She started her work in the social sector, campaigning for rights of children. As the state government was working on a vision document for 2030 for de-addiction, she took it as a challenge to develop a working model to implement a peer-led prevention program. The success of the program is that it found immediate acceptance in the target group. It is her passion for her work and her comprehensive approach that has helped her achieve success in a field which is very difficult and daunting for most others. The fact that her work was recognized by the UN and the WFAD and UNODC decided to hold this conference here in Cochin speaks for itself. Kumari and me, we are extremely proud and happy to support her endeavors in Kerala. Now, when I think about fighting the substance abuse, there are 3 things which comes to my mind. First and foremost, the role of the school. Most of the children all our children actually spend a lot of time in school and in the school environment. I clearly believe that if we want to fight the substance abuse, we have to start it at an early age. And that means we have to start it at schools. Schools needs to have the awareness program as part of the curriculum itself. And that awareness should lead to identification of children who are at high risk, which will in turn lead to interventions and prevention. So I clearly believe that our schools, private and public schools, need to have a very big role in preventing substance abuse in our children. Secondly, the regulatory framework should be a deterrent. Actually, you can see, recently we have changed our traffic penalties. And it has had an impact. I can clearly see that in Bangalore. I think more people are encouraged not to make violations, even forced not to make violations. Similarly, I believe our regulatory framework has to strengthen. And it has to have very strict penalties for peddling drugs, and even more so if it is with minors. Thirdly, I think the community needs to come together. Parents should be educated on how to detect telltale signs of substance abuse, importance of emotional support to wean children away from such addictions. We need to make a safe environment for our children. We need to build community centers where children can interact with each other and hang out after school. For any campaign on substance abuse to succeed, all parties have to come together. We are a very large country. Our problems, our country is, I always say this, India is a country of extremes. On one end, we have enormous progress. Another end, our issues are of very large scale. And this is no different, which means all parties have to come together to address this issue. Government will have a part to play. The civil society will have a part to play. The communities will have a part to play. The school system will have a part to play. And that is the only way we can make an impact. We can actually prevent this epidemic becoming an even more issue for us. So I clearly believe that if we can come together, if all the parties can come together, we can clearly make a difference in our children's life. To conclude, I thank Diana and WFAD for inviting me here. I welcome all the representatives of Kochi and hope that you will take some time out to explore this wonderful state. I sincerely hope that your interactions here will bring in some concrete proposals to root out the menace of substance abuse. I wish you all the best and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shibulal. We now come to the most important or most significant part of the morning. It's my pleasure to introduce His Excellency, the Governor of Kerala, Shri Arif Muhammad Khan. Hailing from Uttar Pradesh, Shri Arif Muhammad Khan entered politics as a student leader at the age of 26. He was the president of Aligarh Muslim University Students' Union in the year 1972-73, and prior to that, he was an honorary secretary of the same union. He had been a member of the Uttar Pradesh Legislative Assembly as well as the Lok Sabha, and served as a union minister in the cabinets of former Prime Ministers Shri Rajiv Gandhi and Shri V.P. Singh. Shri Khan has been deeply involved in writing since his student days. He is the author of the best-selling book of the year 2010, Text and Context, Quran and Contemporary Challenges, published by Rupa & Co. It's my privilege, sir, to invite you, Shri Arif Muhammad Khan, to deliver your inaugural address.
Shri D. Shibulal, Mr. Kapinos, Mr. Hornberg, Dr. Virendra Mishra, Shri Bal Gopal, Shri Raja Shanmugam, Shri C.C. Joseph, Miss Shalini George, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm good morning to all of you. I am delighted to inaugurate the Asian Regional Forum Against Drugs, jointly organized by the World Federation Against Drugs and Fourth Wave Foundation in collaboration with the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. The support rendered by the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, Government of India, and the Excise Commissionerate of the Government of Kerala indicates the significance of this program, which is being organized I believe it is being organized in India for the first time. At the outset, I would like to compliment the organizers for conducting this conference on an issue of great current relevance. Let me also extend warm welcome to the delegates from 28 countries who have come to attend this conference. In fact, the rampant use of alcohol and drugs is an issue that no civil society can afford to ignore. As all of us know, the context in which this conference is being held is rather worrying when we realize that in Asia, the number of people using opiates and other drugs has considerably increased in last few years. The National Drug Use Surveys conducted in India in 2018 has also revealed a higher prevalence of the use of such drugs. In our own state, Kerala, which is known as God's own country and noted for its very high literacy, there has been, I shudder to give the figure, but very, very high increase in drugs and narcotics-related crimes since 2014. Sadly, this very city of Kochi, where you are meeting, now ranks third in India in drug-related crimes. Equally worrying is the fact that Kerala is also noted for very high consumption of alcohol and a high rate of suicides. I think Dr. Mishra referred to the provisions of the Constitution and other laws. That's true. But the magnitude of the issues of alcoholism and substance abuse is so alarming that governmental measures alone may not be enough to control the damage, especially in the context of the revelation that India has 3.1 crore cannabis users and 2.3 crore opioid users. It was only 2 years ago that a survey found nearly 78,000 people using injectable drugs in Punjab, where another survey in the villages of Jalandhar showed that every third person was hooked to drugs other than alcohol and tobacco. In Kerala, almost that is really terrifying. Mr. Shibulal has referred to that statement of the Excise Commissioner about the school children who are affected by this menace. These statistical revelations should actually worry us beyond all limits. But many of us tend to respond as if it does not concern us. The physical, familial, economic, and social impacts of substance abuse need to be addressed through coordinated efforts. The legal implications faced by the offenders in this area are strong enough to work as deterrents, yet we find thousands of people risking their freedom and health to indulge in substance use. This points to the need for a stronger penetration of the anti-drug abuse message awareness in the society. In this context, this conference, which aims to discuss and share best practices to build and increase capacity for networking and advocacy against substance abuse, has a great relevance. I am happy that the delegates would be analyzing the political and strategy documents from the United Nations high-level segment of the 62nd Commission on Narcotic Drugs. I am informed that on the third day of the conference, nearly 80 young people from 14 districts of Kerala will be joining the conference and participating in the discussion, which is very important. One, the people of our state, especially the youth, should be engaged, and they should become aware of the gravity of the situation. Secondly, the youth can be seen as the best vehicle for effecting change in the attitudes to bring the required awareness. As Swami Vivekananda years ago had said, that give me thousand energetic young men and I shall transform India. We need truly young people with social commitment to effectively counter the menace of drug abuse. Along with campaigning against substance abuse, we need to review the provisions for balanced and integrated health and criminal justice responses to drug supply and demand. This has to be based on the principle of shared and common responsibility, political will, and adequate funding for international cooperation. The need to promote the training of personnel in the treatment, aftercare, rehabilitation, and social reintegration of drug use disorders also deserve high priority. Above all, there has to be a constant vigil on the part of the civil society against substance abuse. At present, many youth organizations like Student Police Cadets, National Service Scheme, National Cadet Corps are active in such matters. Interestingly, we limit all our campaigns to the students and the youth in general. In fact, we have to be on guard against substance abuse at the professional level also. Today, all professional bodies, including those in technological areas, have a duty to ensure that their members are free from such a menace. A social audit in this regard is essential on the part of all employees. I think info parks and techno parks in Kerala should take a lead role in ensuring a safe or substance abuse-free environment in their premises. I am certain Shri Shibu Lal, who founded one of the largest technology organizations in India, would take a special interest in this matter. I compliment the organizing agencies for including a wide variety of topics and areas of discussion in this conference. I hope they would provide to the policymakers concrete and clear plans of action to contain this social evil. This is my formal inaugural address, but honestly, let me say, I would like to add a few more sentences. That when I heard the previous speakers, I am really stupefied. And for me, this is the first opportunity to attend a conference on this subject. Therefore, all the more reason for me to feel exasperated. It appears to be such a big threat. The only thing that I can tell you, the organizers and those who have spoken before me and the delegates, is that this is not a subject, as far as I am concerned, which can be dealt with in just one conference. I would request you are going to deliberate about this subject, the threat, the menace, and I would like you to come with concrete proposals so that we can have a system in place where regular monitoring or efforts can be made on a regular basis to create more awareness, to create a campaign against the substance misuse, and I assure you, I will be more than happy to be fully involved with any such campaign. We cannot ignore, we simply cannot ignore the facts which have been brought into light by the previous speakers, and this information about this, the magnitude of the menace affecting our schools has really shaken me. And I must admit, I was not aware of this. So I would like you to come with concrete proposals how we can have a system in place where we can, on a regular basis, we can conduct this campaign, we can include people in this campaign, and I shall be, as I said earlier, I feel I shall be really performing my duty as head of the state if we are able to save our children. If we are able to save our children, everybody, but more so the children, from this threat. I am thankful to all of you for giving me a patient hearing, and I wish you all the best in your deliberations, and I will be looking forward to hear from you what concrete proposals you have. Thank you very much. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat, Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your speech. Thank you for speaking from your heart. Thank you for moving away from the written speech and speaking from your heart. It gives us such a shot in the arm for people in this conference. We feel as if we have already achieved the purpose of the conference through your speech. Thank you. Thank you. It gives me great pleasure now to introduce the last speaker for the morning. Fourth Way Foundation is a response to the call for social change. Our approach involves taking up social issues and turning them into innovation challenges while working with multi-stakeholders to address the divides and the inequalities that exist within and around us. Project VENDA, which means no in Kerala, is an initiative targeting children and teenagers through life skills-based drug prevention programs. This includes skills for building self-esteem, setting realistic goals, coping with anxiety, resisting pressures, communicating effectively, making decisions, managing conflicts, and dealing assertively with social situations in which drugs may be involved. C.C. Joseph, Director of Fourth Way Foundation, affectionately called CC, has almost 20 years of diverse experience in handling international projects at professional education and social levels of organizations. He is an exemplary communicator who designs and conducts customized training programs and develops leaders of excellence from the inside out. He is also the rock support to Diana while she runs around doing all the stuff. I now invite CC to present the vote of thanks.
His Excellency the Governor of Kerala, Sri Arif Muhammad Khan, and other dignitaries on stage, and my dear co-workers in the field of keeping people away from illicit drugs. It's an honor for me to stand here and present a few words of thanks and gratitude. Let me begin by thanking His Excellency for accepting our invitation and inaugurating the Asian Regional Forum Against Drugs. Like His Excellency said, it is the young who will carry forward this message, and the last day means a lot for this conference. Just for your information, the average age of Project VENDA is 28 years, and maybe that is why Project VENDA has been working so well over the years. Also, Your Excellency, one of our ideas was to develop a document and present it to the government at the end of the conference, and we assure you that you will receive a document from our end with all the concrete proposals that come out of this conference. On a personal experience, when I met him, I was taken aback by his humility and warm personality. As a gesture of thanks, we would like to present a book called A Handful of Heroes, which is a collection of real-life narratives of few young people whom Project VENDA has influenced. So I request Mr. Shubulal to hand over the book to His Excellency. All the delegates, you have a copy of the book in your kit. You can read it when you get time. Secondly, I would like to thank Mr. Shubulal. He has joined us today after a long flight straight from the US. He landed early in the morning in Bangalore and then straight to Cochin. Sir, we are really encouraged by your trust and support. What you said about Fourth Way Foundation last year still remains fresh in our hearts. You said that Fourth Way Foundation has courage, commitment, and competence, and you believe that we will make a change. And every now and then we keep repeating that to ourselves at the foundation. So thank you, sir, for joining us today. I'd also like to express my gratitude to Mr. Virendra Mishra, Director of NISD, for not only being here for the inaugural, but he will be here for the 3 days. And his presence and knowledge and experience will really be enriching for the conference. So thank you, sir, for joining us for the 3 days. I'd like to take a moment to thank Mr. Balagopal, Independent Director of Federal Bank, for not only gracing this occasion, but for his understanding for the need of social investment in communities as an opportunity for corporate social responsibility. You have been one of the key persons to advocate this conference and thus landing us the funding support from Federal Bank. We look forward to your continued encouragement and support. Thank you, sir. Next, I would like to thank our co-organizer, WFAD, and partner, UNODC. Mr. Sergey, thank you for gracing this occasion. And I fondly remember a couple of meetings that we had at the UN that made this partnership possible. So thank you very much, sir. Mr. Espion, thank you for putting your trust in us and encouraging us to go ahead to organize this conference. Your commitment and dedication are really admired. Thank you, Mr. Espion. And finally, Mr. Raja Shanmugam, you have been a constant guide to us and help us in the right direction and decisions. Your focus and clarity of thought really inspires us. Your unwavering support keeps our spirits up. So thank you, Mr. Raja. And finally, to all of you for taking your time, your effort, and energy to come here and spend these 3 days together. I believe these 3 days will be a time of encouraging each other, learning from each other, and sharing and supporting each other. Thank you and God bless.